You know what? I absolutely hate being so invested into a football team. It's just such a difficult scenario. See, it's all right for the players because they can go, bad day at work today, didn't go very well. Oh well, I'll come back and play again the next game and see how I get on. The manager can go, didn't do very well today, another bad day at work. I'll just coach a bit more and take the positives out of it and move on. An owner can go, oh well, that weren't very good, but hey, still got the profits rolling in, still sold plenty of Beaver Town, still sold plenty of Tottenham pies, no problem. But as a fan, you're invested. It means something. It means something to you as a person. You know, your mood can change over the weekend for it. You know, and yeah, you can take an odd defeat. You can take an odd poor performance and stuff. But when you're going through a patch like we're going through, it becomes so painful. It just, you know, I mean, I'm sat there shouting and swearing and getting myself all worked up over it. And you just think to yourself, you know what? Why does it have to be so painful? Why do I have to be so invested? Why does this mean so much to me? But it does. There's no other sport like it. There's no other thing like it. You're more likely to leave your wife than you are to swap your football team. You know, it's just something you don't do. It's once you've chose your team, that's it for life. End of. Through thick and thin, that's it. You're in there. But anyway, we are invested. So let's talk about the game, because that's what I do these videos for, right? So first things first, team selection. I guess, considering that we've got a Champions League match coming up and all the noise about does the board want to prioritise one match over the other, it was kind of inevitable that there was going to be some changes to the team and we were going to have to look at things slightly differently. So I wasn't surprised that Jose changed things around. He went very defensive, and most fans will say, well, you know, should we be defensive against Burnley? And, you know, we're Tottenham, they're just Burnley. But unfortunately, we don't have the best of records against Burnley, and they are a strong team who like to go long. They like to put you under a lot of physical pressure. And so, again, don't surprise me that he's gone for, you know, Jan and Toby and Dyer and Sanchez and Tanganga back there. You know, as strong as you're gonna get defensive group. But what, of course, you know, defensive minded, you know, is Tanganga gonna get up the wings like Aurier does? Probably not. Is Jan Vertonghen gonna get up the left? Probably not. Although, let's be fair, it's only a season ago that he was running up that wing, whipping some fantastic balls across. So, you know, against Dortmund. So, you know, you never know. And to be fair, Jan's performance in the previous game against Norwich, I thought was really, really good. So, don't surprise me that he got another game. And again, bear in mind, we've got a game coming up in the Champions League, so needs to mix it up a little bit. So he's then got Ndombele, who is our record signing in the centre of midfield. along with Winks, and every other almost attacking option available is in that team as well. So you can't really complain. You can't really go, well, it's too defensive. Is it? You've got some real attacking talent in that team. The problem was, certainly in the first half, is we were overrunning midfield. There was no holding the ball. It was almost like he'd gone out to the park on a Sunday and said, over here lads, fancy playing? Because these guys, they were playing like they've never played together. They could not pass anything to each other. They couldn't pass a ball 10 yards. I mean, to be honest with you, they couldn't pass wind at this point. It was getting ridiculous. And I'm sitting there watching it and I'm like, I just don't get this. This is just absolutely pathetic. It was boring. It was, embarrassing. And to be honest with you, I just got to a point where I was like, what's the point? I'm so invested in this team, but what's the point? This is just so poor. So, credit where credit's due. Come the second half, Jose makes some definitive changes. And you have to be honest, and as much as I like Pochettino, Poch wouldn't have done that. He wouldn't have made those changes. He wouldn't have changed it up. He'd have kept his belief in the players in the team on the day. So, credit where it's due from that aspect. He brings on Lo Celso, he brings on Moura, who absolutely changed the game. They absolutely changed the game. Lo Celso is really looking a quality player. He's pressing, he's running, was exceptional. And straight away, one of the things that struck me straight away is the smallest bloke on the pitch in Lucas. A ball's lumped up, and he's up there beating everybody to a header. And in the first half, we were long balling it all over the place, and not one person could get anywhere near it. Not one. And so you think to yourself, well, hold on a minute. You've got the smallest bloke on the pitch able to spring like that. It made a difference. That then freed up Lamela and Dele, to get a little bit more attacking. And certainly in that second half, we looked a whole different team. We looked a lot better. And quite rightly, we got ourselves back in the game. A penalty against Lamela gets us back in the game. Dele scores his 50th, youngest player to reach 50 goals, and credit to him. But it was still a nervy, edgy, disappointing performance. Burnley will tell you they should have had a penalty, and they should have done. It should have been a penalty. Tanganga, I believe, or Sanchez, straight in the back of one of their players, had him over. For me, it's a penalty. Surprised it wasn't given, But yeah, it is so difficult to stay motivated and inspired in this team the way it's going. And it doesn't matter who you blame, because everyone's to blame to a certain extent. The board for their investment, Mourinho for his tactics, for his the teams he's putting out. But ultimately there's a reason for all of it. I'm sure he's got real good reasons to do what he does, and I try to think of those myself. I try to understand why is he doing what he's doing, and I can kind of see it. Don't always agree with it, but I can kind of see why he's doing what he's doing, and that's why he's paid £15 million a year, right? So, Dave the plumber or Mick the brickie can say as much as they like. Ultimately, he's the bloke getting paid the big bucks, and he's the one who needs to make those decisions, and he'll stand and fall by them. There's a lot of people calling for Jose to go. There's a lot of people calling for Poch to come back and all this kind of stuff. But the reality is, if Mourinho hadn't been available, I don't personally think Pochettino would have got the sack. I think the fact that Mourinho was available is exactly why Poch got the sack, and exactly why, because Levy has always been in awe of Mourinho and has always wanted him. So I honestly do believe that he will have to spend money in the summer. No matter what they say, they'll still spend money in the summer, and they'll still start to rebuild this team because they know it needs doing. Just touching on a couple of other things. I thought it was quite a little bit funny, if I'm honest. Eric Dyer being targeted by the Burnley fans, singing that his brother's a twat. I thought it weren't particularly classy, but absolutely funny. And to a certain extent, I think probably Eric Dyer would probably see the funny side of it, because the reason why he went after that fan was because he was targeting. This is targeting him as a group for fun, to wind him up, as opposed to being super personal, which is what the Tottenham fan was doing in the Norwich game. So I can kind of see why that would have happened. But to be fair to Eric Dyer, I thought he had a decent game, certainly in the second half. I mean, he did one last-ditch tackle that absolutely was exceptional, really good, and made, kept us in the game. Hugo, of course, trying his best to pull a Michel Vorm, and he did that successfully, parrying the ball straight out to a Burnley player, so that the Burnley player can put it in the back of the net against us. But apart from that, it was exactly what we thought: a dire, miserable, uninspiring, poor performance yet again. And we are sliding down into mid-table. The Scum are 1 point below us, with a game in hand, I believe. So that's not great. So, if you're not looking over your shoulder and thinking about St Tottering's Day, then there's something wrong there. But like I said at the start of this video, we're all invested. We're all invested in this team. We'll always be invested in this team. We can't get away from it. We can't let it go. So what can you do? We can moan as much as we like. We can bitch as much as we like. But ultimately, those that have the say and those that have the control will keep having the control and keep having the say. And some of these players might not be good enough in our opinion, but ultimately they're still getting paid their 60, 70, 80, 100 odd thousand pound a week, 200,000 pound a week, because someone thought that they were good enough. They're certainly better than me, because I'm a shit footballer. So, what can you say? But, it doesn't take away the pain, it doesn't take away the disappointment. That's always going to be there. And I guess we're victims of our own success. We've done so well for such a long period, and then now all of a sudden it's all gone Pete Tong, and now we're suffering the consequences of that. But ultimately we'll be there again. We'll be up for the next game. I'll still be watching on Tuesday night, and hoping upon a hope that we can keep our season alive for at least another round. But if we can't, then I guess I'll just have to try and hope that the season keeps alive when we play Man United the following Sunday. Keep the faith, people. Up the Spurs.